So I welcome to the stage Alla Alla. So we've done it so many times. Kaia, who is a partner at Asensi Abogados, as well as Aurora, who is CEO of Asensi Technologies, and they will share their findings with regard to the royal degree from their professional perspective about responsible gaming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, William, and thank you for organizing this very interesting event. And it's going to be quite challenging for us to explain something new or interesting, or to add something to the sessions that we had this morning about responsible gambling, which have been very interesting. Before entering into the review of the main requirements that the new decree on safer gambling brings, I think it would be interesting. Oh, sorry. No, it's okay. See, I think it would be interesting to give a brief background of where we come from in terms of responsible gambling requirements, or in terms of where we are before reaching this new regulatory framework, which will become applicable mostly in 4 months. So the Royal Decree on Safer Gambling is a direct response to Article 8 of our Gambling Act, which since the beginning, since 2011, as Santi has explained this morning also, includes a general mandate of consumer protection through the development of regulatory framework for promoting safer gambling environment among licensed operators. This may materialize through different regulatory instruments, and in fact today this has been done through different mechanisms, but never through a direct specific regulation in responsible gambling. Instead, the requirements that we have on responsible gambling have been approved through different regulations, through the Gambling Act itself, royal decrees, technical resolutions as well.
A lot.
And more in particular in the content for the operator's operating plan that needs to be submitted at the time of applying for a license, and more recently in the responsible royal decree on gambling advertising. To give a few examples of responsible gambling requirements that we have since day one, I would like to say, for example, we have in the Gambling Act the provision of granting loans to players. We have also the gaming access interdiction, RIAG, and the control to these participants. Yeah. We also have a few reality checks that were approved also through technical resolutions, like, for example, the obligation to inform the player about last connection upon login, and also the remaining balance, which is an information that must always be displayed, ministerial orders, where we have information that must be displayed to the player, and also specific regime for in-play betting games, for example, or for slots that were approved in 2014. Over the years, and as the market has gained experience, some of those requirements that were in our market since day one have been developed, have been improved. Like it is, for example, the DGOJ's web service tool. Like this tool, since day one, provide a direct response to the operator on the player's e-verification of the ID and its status on the RIAG. Since 2018, this DGOJ's web service tool also provides to the operator information on whether the specific ID belongs to a minor or whether it belongs to a deceased person, which in many cases avoids fraud related to responsible gambling. Also, we had a change in the procedure to increase and remove players' deposit limits. This procedure has been strengthened in 2021 through the Royal Decree on Gambling Advertising. Or, for example, another absolutely important milestone in our sector was the change in the verification of the player's ID, dividing this procedure into steps: online verification, followed by a documentary verification, and this happened back in 2018-2019. well, there are more examples and more developments in terms of responsible gambling that have taken place. For example, like the DGOJ's website on responsible gambling, Jugar Bien, created back in 2015.
Phishing alert.
Phishing alert, technical notes on threat management, which are actually also very much related with responsible gambling. And even an attempt to approve and to publish certain indications on responsible gambling that were finally not approved. Well, all this has turned out to be not enough because, there is need for a specific regulation and there is need for interaction, there is need for an adequate regulatory status in order to demand full compliance to operators. Basically, the measures that we had to date are not sufficient in terms of interaction, in terms of control, in terms of active action from the operator side. The new regulation seeks interaction. The new regulation wants operators to proactively detect problematic gambling. In this sense, the new regulation includes the possibility to the player, express possibility for the operator, to cancel the accounts of players with risky behavior. The regulation also obliges the operator to suspend the accounts of these customers when there is no required interaction with them. The measures that we had to date are mainly looking at promoting self-knowledge and self-protection of customers, giving freedom to the operators for the implementation of the measures. This, in the practice, results in a great disparity among the measures developed and measures taken and its efficient development between the different operators. As we said, as it has been told this morning, like there are operators who are diligent, that have implemented efficient measures. There are others that are not that much. So there is a need to have a specific regulation and, and as I said, an adequate regulatory status in order to demand the full compliance of these measures. Well, and obviously, there is a general trend among the regulated markets and European jurisdictions for promoting safer gambling environment. So yes, all this has led to the approval of this regulation, and now we can explain a little bit what are the main obligations, main requirements, and what does this imply in technical terms and from the technical implementation side.
Okay, I want to say thank you, Willem, for the invitation. Also, please consider that we are the only good girls that because you encourage us not to use a PowerPoint presentation, we're coming here with 3 papers. So it's not that we are not prepared, it's that we are, So one thing that is very important about the evolution and about where we are going in terms of technical development and implementation of responsible gaming measures and all this kind of stuff that we are discussing today, is that it's a little bit what Alla said. We've been seeing different measures being implemented, some of them very successful. I think we should be very proud of the different, I don't know, for example, the web service of the DGOJ for checking the players' identity and their status in the RGIJ. I cannot say it in English. So these kind of things are really, really achievements from the side of the DGOJ, but also from the side of the operators. I mean, requirements have been changing constantly. Also, my beloved internal control system, the data model is changing continuously. And no matter what, we are there and we are still trying to follow the lead or the path that is being drafted by the regulator. And we are doing well. We are doing quite well. But at some point, maybe data says so, or I don't know, or maybe this thing about it's trendy amongst regulators in Spain, in Europe, to just pursue reinforcement in actions, helping to the responsible gaming and the self-awareness and all these things. So the thing is that we've reached a point where they have realized, for one reason or another, that some things need to be written down and some things need to be made mandatory, because there's a big discrepancy with differences between some operators and others. There are operators that are fully diligent and absolutely committed with responsible gaming. There are others that are not so much. They just try to do the bare minimum and that's it. So now it's like we need to do a little bit more. We need to tell you what to do. We've seen in a lot of cases that things that were not mandatory at the beginning were voluntary, like this phishing alert service that was voluntary for operators to adhere or not. Now, wow, it's become mandatory. Why? Maybe because it works well with the operators that are implementing it, but if not all of them are adhering to it, then it makes no sense. So I'm saying that this is the trend, no?
Yeah.
But then the good thing, as Alla said, is that it's almost a logical evolution. So we're missing interaction with the player. As our colleague from Maintain said, emails, who cares about emails? Every time that I open my inbox, it's like delete, 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 delete. Thousands of emails that I don't care about and I'm not going to even read. So now, I think you've realized that this regulation is talking about emails in some cases as a tool that will leave a trace and that can be recorded and I don't know, something like that, because there are other tools that also are traceable and good. But in most of the cases, what this regulation is talking about is about messages, not emails. So it's a little bit vague, the incorporation of this terminology, but I think it says a lot. So now the DGOJ wants you to be more proactive, to be interacting better with the players. And when we look at please stop me when I'm boring you. Vale.
No,
When we're looking at the different requirements and at the implementation calendar or the entry into force of the different requirements, we can see that the first ones, the ones coming in September, okay, it's around the corner, are quite relatively easy to implement from a technical perspective. Why? Because most of them can be done manually, so you won't have to just get everything changed and modified. Your platform will not have to suffer of many modifications. Also, for everybody here, it's not going to be considered as a substantial change that you will have to apply for. So good news for you, bad news for me. So, the good thing about it is that it's a very logical evolution, a monthly summary report, some messages when players under 25 are registering, all this kind of stuff that really is easy to implement with the current tools, okay? But then what happens that the fact that you don't need to certify these changes and you don't need to apply for a substantial change before the DGOJ doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want. No, actually, when I'm having my conversations with the DGOJ, they tell me, no, we'll be monitoring them from moment zero. It's not that because it's not going to be certified, they can do whatever they want. No, we'll be there. The scrutiny is going to be fierce. But it's really, we're getting to a point and a level of technical requirements that with the platforms that we've seen in the market, with the way operators work up till today, these changes, the first ones, are not so difficult. Come on. I mean, we've seen worse. Okay, see, no? See. But then, of course, and now I'm changing, there are coming other changes that are going to be the scary ones. And they come in March next year. So, yeah, still a lot of time, but you know what happens. You don't realize, and then it's Christmas, and then it's March again. So, for these ones...
For example, the setting up of the session
for
all games under game.
Yeah.
The reality checks every 60 minutes, at least every 60 minutes,
the
right?
credit card bans to certain players, all these kind of things are going to be more challenging. For these things, you have to really get ready. So now you have all this time to get to March compliant with these more challenging technical requirements that will require you to go behind your platform supplier, or if you're a platform supplier, to move your... And you will really need to make big changes. I mean, think about the other game session. Sorry, but it's gonna replace and include the slot session. Our friend, the slot session, is now gonna be absorbed by this other game session. It's gonna mean a lot of changes for everybody, for every operator, for every even. I think it could even affect B2B suppliers, despite game supplier, despite usually this session is handled from a platform perspective. And then, of course, what everybody can read between the lines is that there are a lot of changes that are not described here that are going to come here in the Royal Decree, that are going to come just because they are required to be able to enforce the actual word of the regulation, of the Royal Decree. So I don't want to start talking about data model. It's going to change completely. Actually, just as a news for some people, you know that we are on version 2.13 of the data model. 2.14 is kind of voluntary. Get ready, because it's not 2.15, the version that is coming. Version 3 is coming soon.
Because there are going to be new player statuses to be reported, and
a lot of
the setting up of the session for the general license of other games and for all those products.
JUT, JUV are going to be changed to include all this settings,
new reporting
settings
data, right?
For the settings of the other game session. Everything about player statuses is going to change as well. Of course, whenever they develop and implement everything related to these share limits across operators in Spain, this is going to also modify the implementation of the internal control system in the different platforms, and therefore it's going to be there in the data model. And also, there are a lot of doors left open in this regulation for the DGOJ to decide to, I don't know, publish a technical note or a resolution or something like that, just to develop something that, for now, it's only a possibility. We can do this, and some of these things might not require a big effort from your platforms or your employees, but some of others are going to be challenging. Yeah. And then, of course, 2024 September, all the games that are being marketed right now will have to change if there's anything similar to a near-miss characteristic or things like that. There are not so many, so I wouldn't be so worried about this, but it's a big change for those games that contain this characteristic. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing how these things evolve, how the DGOJ will actually put in words and in requirements, because they will be requirements, all these ideas that now are only drafted in this Royal Decree. Now they have to turn into something concrete, something that the operators and developers and suppliers can follow. because there are a lot of things that are left in the air, open for interpretation, and I think this is very dangerous when we are talking about responsible gaming. So this criteria, and so get ready for some more challenging times in Spain.
For changing the setup.
Yeah.
For changing the setup, and this will impact the player's experience, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are things coming. There's always for me, one of the good things about this regulator is that the technical team hasn't changed much in these years. We know them. They're good. They know what they're doing. And they've evolved with us. So they know where we are and who we are and how we are doing things and so on. So, yeah. I think we still are in a good position. I'm not as pessimistic as my good friend Santiago. Because I've also seen that no matter the changes, no matter the requirements, the obligations that have been set up for the operators and suppliers so far, no matter what, we've made it. And we are surviving, and more than surviving, I think, in most of the cases. So it's a competitive market. It's getting more and more complicated.
Well, we'll see if it's that competitive. We'll see if all these regulatory changes and the lack of innovation that we spoke, the high interaction on following the categorizations approved, and the high restrictions that we have in terms of advertising, if it will reach the final objective of a regulated market, right? To be a healthy market, secure market, and a competitive market. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. So. Yeah. We can lose some of this to the regulatory evolution, but we don't have a crystal ball either.
We have one, but we'll bring it out later. Fantastic operational insight in what actually has to be done on a daily basis with the royal decree that was signed off now. Any questions from the room about this? So this is your chance to clear any doubts you have that you may have to do in the next weeks, days, months. Any questions from the room? I have one, so no worries. No questions? Nobody? So question here for both of you, ladies. Could you give a quick estimate of how burdensome the new responsible gaming requirements are for licensed operators? How difficult will they be to implement? Burdensome, and how difficult to implement?
I think that we've already talked about it, right? A little bit. Were you listening? No. I think that the first block of technical requirements and operational requirements, because it's also the way that you have to proceed with categorizing your players and all this kind of stuff. The first block, the one that is going to be there to bloom in September, is not so difficult. Okay. The other ones, wow. They're going to be challenging, and they're going to require a lot of effort in terms of human resources, technology, and...
There are many new requirements entering into force in September, right? But from the technical perspective, not complicated in terms of implementing.
It's more operational.
But yeah, and a lot of many differentiations, like young customers cannot be part of the operator's VIP program and cannot receive promotions unrelated with the gambling activity, so no promotions for those under 26, which are about a trip or a dinner, let's say. So intensive behavior, customers, no use of credit cards, but that will enter into force next year, right?
Yeah, the first ones, they're going to be relatively easy, and they can be, I think, most of them approach it with our current means. So, of course, if you can automate some of these activities, much better, of course. But the ones that really will require no matter what, technological effort and the adequate operational changes in the companies are going to be the ones that are coming afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's quite clear. Last question to wrap it up. Business impact. So do you also expect a relative decline in revenues as a result of the new rules? I mean, that's a crystal ball, of course, but I mean, I'm sure you have a pretty good insight in what the real impact is towards the players.
Well,
and the
I think
business.
that it's like we need to see the regulation and the market as a whole, no? Everything. So there are very serious, big restrictions in terms of responsible gambling in the UK, for example, but there are marketing opportunities, advertising opportunities, which to me personally makes sense, right? Responsible gambling, main objective of the regulation to protect players, all players, those more vulnerable, but to advertise the legal market, licensed operators, which is absolutely necessary. Like a very big number of population, they simply cannot distinguish, and they don't know how to distinguish a licensed operator from an illegal operator. Yeah. So, I think that there is a need for a change also in terms of at least adjusting the regulations to the market needs, to innovation that we talk about, and yeah, otherwise, like, if this is the...
I also think that revenues will be affected, for sure, because every change means having to adapt to it, having to put there some resources, human resources, economic resources, technological efforts, etc. But I also think that we've proven as a sector that we can build up, starting from different points or levels or layers or something like that. So at some point, I hope there won't be so many changes to adapt to, and then it will be everything much. Because now I'm seeing a lot of... Yeah. A wave trend there, because especially because of this, and because in a lot of cases this uncertainty is making a little bit complicated to have certain activities or certain companies to be interested in Spain as a stable market.
Okay, well, I guess we can also ask David Henwood and Mauro for the conference of next year to analyze that. And we also have Paul Foster's contribution later, who I think also has an opinion on this. I'd like to thank you for sharing your expertise here on stage. And please stay with us for dinner. Thank you very much.
Thank you.